Alright, hi everyone, welcome back to SteamFlow. Today we're checking out a game called Chip and Clawz versus the Brainioids. This was actually pretty hard to say. On the Steam Deck, this is a fast-paced hybrid of a third-person action-adventure game and real-time strategy where you can build up bases and command troops, but you can also jump right into the chaos either as yourself as Chip or his robocat Clawz and enjoy the game in third person. It's colorful, frantic and surprisingly tactical. I want to thank the developer Snapshot Games for providing me with the review key, and I wanted to check out how it runs on the Steam Deck. Without further ado, let's check it out. So what's the game actually like? You'll be zipping around large maps, collecting resources, setting up bases and spawning robot allies to help you fight off waves of quirky aliens called Brainioids. Combat is fast and chaotic. You're not just giving orders to different troops, you're right there on the battlefield. And 1 second you're building a turret or rallying your bots, the next you're double jumping across the map, blasting enemy swarms with your own weapons. There is online co-op, PvP and even local split screen, which I tested on the Steam Deck, and it's all drop in, drop out. The best part about this game is that it's segmented into small missions and you can play for 15 or 20 minutes and then I'll drop and come back later. The whole game is designed to be fast, fun and cooperative. Now on to performance on the Steam Deck. As I said, the game is built to be fast and fluid, and for the most part it really is. On the lowest settings with FSR 3 set to balance, the game will run between 60 and 75 FPS, but it can dip below 60 during heavy battles. Now I also tested TSR and XCSS, which are available. However, both of these perform a lot worse than FSR for some reason. So with TSR and XCSS we're barely able to reach 50 to 55 FPS. I'm not sure what's happening there and why FSR is so much better. However, I've chose to go with FSR set to balance. Now the interesting part about this, the game has a very cartoonish art style, and I think this hides the upscaler artifacts really well. Usually with FSR and the latest games I've tested with FSR, they have either this shimmering effect or a lot of jittering happening, but with this art style you can't really see any of that. So even though FSR usually looks rough, in this game it actually holds up really nicely. Now there's also frame generation built in, the FSR frame generation. I tried it out and of course it doesn't work great. It rarely does. It makes the control feel very sluggish. It will reach 60 FPS or even further, but I don't recommend using it. I also tried the Lossless Scaling frame generation and I think it's the better choice. The game definitely feels a lot more responsive, has almost no input lag and only very minor artifacting around the UI. It doesn't keep a rock solid 90 FPS, but it does make the gameplay feel a lot more fluid without ruining the controls. Now for a great balance of smoothness and stability, I recommend setting the game to medium preset. However, turning shadows, shaders and reflections to low. For upscaler, I've chosen FSR 3 set to balanced and I've done a frame rate cap of 45 FPS. Really cool thing about this game is that it lets you manipulate the FPS to a very specific number, so you can cap it to 40 FPS from within the game. And I think this will give you a very smooth experience with some minimal dips below 45. Now I also tested local split screen. Be warned, it's much heavier. You'll need to drop to the lowest settings. You need to cap the game to 30 FPS, otherwise performance will jump between 30 and 40 FPS and feel choppy. However, local split screen is absolutely possible. Now you are going to need to lower your expectations. Now I didn't have a chance to actually test this at 1080p on a bigger screen because I'm not really sure how many people are going to play local split screen on the Steam Deck. It is possible. Keep in mind that it probably will be at 30 or even lower FPS at 1080p. Now another really cool thing about the game is that it also offers a friends pass. So if you own the game and you want to play it with your friend on Steam, you can give them a free copy and they can load it up on their PC and they can join you. So I also tried that with both Steam Decks. It's actually a fantastic experience to play local couch co-op with two Steam Decks, and absolutely no issue. However, you do need to have an online internet connection in order to achieve that. Now on to battery life. I think battery life is actually pretty solid for a game this chaotic. On medium with 45 FPS cap, I got around 2 hours and 45 minutes, and on low at 60 FPS it's about the same, also 2 hours and 45 minutes, but as I said, you're not going to keep that 60 FPS stable. On local split screen co-op with a 30 FPS cap, I can stretch that to around 3 hours and 45 minutes, and if you play local co-op uncapped, you can expect again around 2 hours and 45 minutes. These are all on the OLED. Now on the LCD it's more in the range of 1 hour and 30 minutes. Now thermals stayed pretty stable and fan noise wasn't too distracting, but the game still got got a little bit too hot. In some regions I was seeing more than 75 degrees, so keep that in mind. Now on to controls, UI and overall feel. I think this is where the game really shines on handheld, and this is where I found something very surprising about it. The game is packed with thoughtful features. As I said earlier, you can set custom FPS limits all the way down to 30. You can toggle vibration, camera shake, you can tweak aim assist, you can adjust controller sensitivity. There is also text scaling and a ton of language options. I went into the language menu and I saw the language slider, and it had so many options for languages. I kept scrolling until I reached the last one, which said Bulgarian, and that really caught me by surprise because there aren't many games translated to Bulgarian. That's when I actually checked and saw that this was developed by a Bulgarian studio, which I found to be really, really cool. Now, there is one caveat. There is no controller mapping, which is a bummer, but the default layout works pretty great and I think feels natural on the DeX controls. The game has full controller support and it is pretty flawless. However, you can't really customize it. Now, you can play this game completely offline if you want by yourself. You can also play online. You can do online PvP. You can do split screen locally, or you can do online co-op with a friend's pass. All of these work on the Steam Deck without any issues, without any anti-cheat or anything to do specifically with the Proton layers. And playing with two Steam Decks side by side is honestly a blast. It feels like couch core from the golden days, just shrunk down to handheld size. So in conclusion, can you play Chip and Clawz versus the Brainioids on the Steam Deck? Absolutely. I think it's a fantastic game for a handheld. It runs well at around 60 FPS on low settings or rock solid at 45 FPS on medium settings with just a few tweaks. Battery life is decent, the controls feel great, and it's packed with many features and many different modes. It's a rare to find a game that's this fun and this flexible on the Steam Deck, and if you want to try it for yourself, you can grab it on the Steam store. I'll have a link in the description. If you found this video helpful, you can support the channel by leaving a like, subscribe for more Steam Deck content, and if you want more tested settings and verdicts like this, don't forget to follow my Steam Curator page. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.